Hello everyone, welcome to the KZGN News. Today we'll bring you results from last night's Democratic Town Hall, City Council Special Meeting News, Planning Commission News, today's KZGN Talking Points editorial, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Winnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. Well, last night the Democrats had a town hall session. It was held in Des Moines, Iowa. The town hall was sponsored by CNN. This town hall was interesting in the approach. Each candidate had their own period. The periods ran about 45 minutes per candidate, but according to my watch, Sanders had a little more time than O'Malley and Clinton. Most of the questions were from the audience. The way it was handled was the audience members all submitted written questions to the management staff. They went through them and then selected the ones that would get asked. Each questioner was able to get up and on camera ask their question. The candidates did not get the questions in advance. There were a couple occasions for each candidate where the moderator did a little what he called pushback to the candidate when it seemed they were not answering the question or further detail was needed. First up was Bernie Sanders. He was very personable and effective. As always, his main focus was on big money corruption and handing out free programs. He was asked to provide his differences to the other two candidates. He answered that well. When asked about how he was going to pay for all these new entitlement programs, he was vague in any detail, but he kept saying he was going to tax the rich and Wall Street big companies more. Sanders was kind of weak on foreign affairs. While he provided good information, it was hard to follow what he would actually do. On gun control, he stated that most of what he approved in the previous bill was good, but that he was willing to revisit the section on immunity for manufacturer liability. He was also asked what his definition of democratic socialism meant to him. Basically, he took full credit for the position. He declared again that he was for taking power away from the big money Wall Street and billionaires and making them pay for new entitlement programs for the middle and lower class. Next up was O'Malley. He actually did a very good job too. He offered much more detail on his proposals. He focused mostly on continuing the course Obama started. I was impressed with the details he offered backing up his proposals versus Sanders and Clinton offering little details, especially in how they are going to pay for all their new handout programs. Even the moderator tried to push for details on that topic, but got no detailed answers. And finally, Clinton got her turn. She was well prepared for every question, it seemed. I have to say, she came across very strong, but seemed too prepared. She was asked about whether she could be trusted by one of the audience. She seemed to flinch a little bit with that question, but in essence her answer was that she did nothing wrong and all these charges against her are all made up by her opponents. She played the poor victim card real well on that one. She was asked about the Benghazi controversy, but the questioner from the audience gave her accolades for how she handled the congressional hearing. She offered no real accountability of the Benghazi disaster. She was not questioned at all on the initial blame on a video causing the attack. All her answers were very good. All three candidates carried the liberal approach to government. So what's next in the presidential campaign? Well, Thursday evening is the final Republican debate before next Monday's Iowa caucuses. So tune in to Fox for this debate. In City Council news, the Council is holding a special meeting Thursday, January 28th. The meeting will be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The purpose of the meeting is to get an update from staff on the new proposed wastewater treatment plant. It's possible that the Council might make some decisions as to how to proceed with the project. This new sewer facility project has been in the planning stages for years and years. Only a couple years ago, though, the Council actually hired an engineering firm to start design plans. But the plans contain a few variations. The most important are the location of the new plant and whether to include a tertiary treatment capability, plus the potential of including an injection system as well. Decisions on the location is the first one that must be made. Then they can go on to the design requirements. So if you have an interest in this, join the workshop Thursday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at City Hall. Tonight at 6 o'clock, the Ridgecrest Planning Commission meets at City Hall. The main items on the agenda start with public hearings. There will be a pre-abatement public hearing to abate property at 137 South Sunland Street. This property has had previous violations in the past. Currently, there are no owners, and the city is prepared to clean up the property and bill the heirs to the estate for the costs. The Planning Commission is being asked to authorize the cleanup of the property. Under discussion and other action items, the Commission is being asked to approve median art at 2 locations. The first one is Median Art Project Map 1601, a proposal by Friends of the Library to erect petroglyph artwork, Reading Shaman by Milt Burford, at North Charlie Boulevard, at Median Art Site number 15. The second one is Median Art Project 1602, a proposal by the Joanne Bell Trust to erect petroglyph artwork called Waterhole by Olaf Dowd, at North Charlie Boulevard, Median Art Site number 16. Coming real quick now is the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation dinner. This is a fun evening of guns and entertainment for the benefit of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. This year's annual dinner is this Saturday, January 30th, 5 p.m. at Kerr McGee Center. That's this Saturday. Pre-sale tickets can be purchased and is required. If you want to attend this event, purchase your tickets now. Contact Gavin Swanson at 760-589-4537 or email him at rc.rmef.tickets@gmail.com. Now stay with us. After the break, we'll have the 113th KZGN News Talking Points editorial. Thanks for staying with us. Now it's time for the 113th KZGN News Talking Points editorial. Here's today's topic. What are the effects of raising the minimum wage? But first, a couple comments from the last editorial I did titled, Should a Private Company Have a Voting Seat on the New GSA? Albo offered this. Should any specific private company have a seat on GSA? No. But the GSA does need some type of representation from the private well owners in the valley. Ridgecrest, Indian Wells Valley Water District, the Indian Kern CSD, and the county governments all have their own interests to protect, but none of them represent the interest of private well owners or well co-ops. About 30% of the people in this valley are either on private wells or co-op wells. Paul Vann offered this comment. The private well owners could have an association, but their interests should not be treated any better or worse than a private water district. Then Alba offered these statistics I hadn't seen before. Here's the thing. Indian Wells Valley has approximately 850 wells. 34 wells owned by five major producers, the Navy, Indian Wells Valley Water District, Cyril's Valley Minerals, Meadowbrook Dairy, Indian Kern Community Services District. Other well owners include 670 individual domestic wells and 120 residential cooperative wells. That's a lot of wells and potential for well owners to get together to ask for voting control of the GSA. Now to today's topic. What are the effects of raising the minimum wage? I read in news publication almost weekly of cities or states taking up the issue of raising the minimum wages. And now with the presidential campaigns, it is once again a big topic. And of course, the Democrats continue to support raising the minimum wage to $15 per hour, and Republicans generally are against it. And the support and opposition is really based on two separate theories. Supporters want to supposedly help lift the lowest wage earners out of poverty by giving them more money to live on. In concept, that sounds great, but the math does not support that. Opponents are not in favor of that because of the impact it does on the cost of the products we purchase. So, what's the math behind the issue? It's really very simple. First, supporters seem to think that businesses will just raise wages and take the raise out of their profits. Well, newsflash to all those that think that. Businesses will not take a raise in wages out of their profits. They will raise the cost to the purchaser of whatever they sell. If a fast food worker gets a raise in the minimum wage, the restaurant has two options. First, lay people off to reduce cost, or raise the price of the product they sell. So for all these people that live at the minimum wages level, the cost of everything they buy will now go up to pay for that increase in the minimum wage. I never hear any supporter address that reality. The business is not going to eat an increase in the cost. We, the purchasing population, will pay for it in higher costs. This is a vicious cycle, otherwise known as inflation. Liberals want to raise wages. Wages go up. Then the cost to purchase the product goes up. Then they need another raise in minimum wages to again try and increase their purchasing power. This does not work. So what is the solution? Raises in wages has to be economy or skill driven. By this I mean that if demand allows a product to be sold at a price that supports a higher than minimum wage, then the workers get paid a higher wage. Also, as people improve their education and skill levels to help them qualify for higher paying jobs, their purchasing power goes up, as does their standard of living. For an individual to improve their standard of living, they have to do it. The government cannot force businesses to do it. Business will just pass any forced increase in cost onto us. Of course, to Bernie Sanders and other liberals, he thinks all businesses can afford to pay for it, and he's going to increase their taxes to pay for it. Again, this adds to the vicious cycle. If the government raises taxes on businesses, they will not eat those costs. They will pass them on to us. We will pay it, not them. Changes in a person's living standard has to be accomplished by the old adage, hard work and education provides for a good living. It also allows a worker to improve his standard of living over the years. A government handout only provides for a stagnant living condition. Government handouts was only meant to be temporary help to someone between jobs, not a lifestyle. There's not enough money in the country to pay for all the proposed Democrat handout programs. There just isn't. Raising the minimum wage only increases the cost to purchase products. Here's the simple chain of events. If you raise the wages of farm workers in the field, the farmer raises the cost to the distributor. Then the distributor has to pay a higher price for the product. When the distributor also has to pay minimum wages, he raises the cost to the grocery store. When the grocery store raises the minimum wage to their employees, the cost is passed on to us when we purchase the groceries. So do you see the math yet? A raise in the minimum wages affects the price we pay for a head of lettuce at least 3 times before it actually gets purchased by us. So think about it. If a raise in minimum wage affects what we pay for a head of lettuce at least 3 times, what about other products we buy? A raise in minimum wage is not the answer to lifting someone out of poverty. Government handouts will never lift someone out of poverty. It only enslaves a person to stay dependent on the government to just barely survive. A government-forced raise in wages will never work. Oh, and as a side note, I definitely support that all people should be paid the same for the same job, regardless of sex or any other protected considerations. However, there also has to be a pay scale system that allows people to work their way up the ladder of wages as well. A pay scale system that encourages workers to strive to do better, to get a raise. It is possible, especially in union environments, that a male worker working on a manufacturing line doing the same job as another on the same line might be at a different pay level based on seniority. There also has to be an allowance for merit increases where one person could wind up being paid more than another person doing the same job, but not as well. So equal pay for equal work is not that simple. The lowest level wages were never to be lifestyle sustaining wages. They were entry-level wages to allow a person to start a job, to allow a company to bring in someone with little or no experience, a person to get more training on the job, to do good work and then get raises, to work their way up the ladder, eventually gaining a lifestyle supporting wage. A good employee and the company are partners in the success of any business. Wages have to be economy and education driven. The more an employee has to offer an employer, the higher their wages will be. In conclusion, The belief that raising the minimum wage will raise someone out of poverty is a fallacy. The only thing that will raise a person out of poverty is hard work and/or education qualifying a person to get a higher paying job. I'm Tom Whitnick, and that's what I think. I'd like to know what you think. If you have any comments about this editorial or would like to discuss or recommend a topic, I'd like to hear from you. Please email them to info@kzgn.net. Now stay tuned for weather and sports when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. Let's go to Lane for the weather.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service, accumulating snow will bring slippery travel conditions over eastern New Mexico into Tuesday evening. A second area of wintry weather is expected over portions of the Great Lakes. Further south and east, a vigorous low-pressure system is forecast to bring the threat for heavy rainfall and strong to severe thunderstorms over Florida on Wednesday. Temperatures across the nation: Carolinas at 58, Georgia at 56, Arkansas at 45, northern Texas at 44, New Mexico at 38, and Los Angeles at 65. And for us locally, tonight, mostly clear with a low around 33, south-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 59 with a calm wind. Wednesday night, partly cloudy with a low around 35, north-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday, sunny with a high near 62, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday night, mostly clear with a low around 37, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 67, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Friday night, partly cloudy with a low around 41, west wind 5 miles per hour. And Saturday, mostly sunny with a high near 63, southwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 25. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
Thanks, Lane. And now Tom Heck with sports.
And a very pleasant Tuesday early evening to everyone. Let's start with the NBA last night. The two best teams in basketball played up in Oakland. Golden State an easy victory over the Spurs. Golden State has only lost 4 games all season. That was the Spurs' 7th loss of the year. The Celtics had a good win against the Wizards. Boy, in my opinion, the Wizards have had the biggest struggle of any team in the NBA. I thought they would do a lot better this year. They find themselves out of the playoff mix if it started today. The Cavaliers beat the T-Wolves and the Heat over the Bulls. And the Bulls now have lost 3 games straight. They are struggling. The Rockets better than the Pelicans, 112-111. Atlanta beats Denver, and Detroit beats the Jazz. The Jazz under Quinn Snyder all of a sudden now have lost 6 of 8 games. Okay, in the NCAA top 20 teams, Miami beats Duke. Duke has lost 6 games now this season. They are struggling. Mike Krzyzewski and year number 24 are finding things not quite so good this year. Lost a lot of seniors last year. And Iowa State just gets better and better. The number 12 in all the land. They'll move up. They beat number 4 Kansas that game in Ames last night. NHL winners, Boston, New York, the Phoenix, and Detroit. The New York Rangers and the New York Islanders lose to Phoenix. Okay, let's go over to Australia, Melbourne, Australia. Roger Federer wins in 3 sets against a very tough Thomas Berdych. Federer right now will move into the quarterfinals. Federer trying to get his 2nd Australian victory. All right, let's talk about basketball for Wednesday night. Burroughs High School, the boys will be in town. They'll take on Hesperia. That game will start at 6 o'clock on Wednesday night. And then at 4:30 will be the boys' JV game. Now, they'll flip-flop with the girls. The girls will take on Hesperia. The girls won easily last time for Burroughs against Hesperia, as did the JV girls. So right now, with 2 weeks left, after this week, the varsity girls basketball team at Burroughs, the number 2 team from the league, Oak Hill's number 1 with Burroughs number 2, that would set them up for a pretty good seed in the playoffs to come starting in about 3 weeks. The boys are going to have to win some games in order to get into playoffs. They still have a chance, but they're going to have to have a good run down the stretch. That's your sports for this Tuesday. I'm Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. Also, KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Stay tuned for Ridgecrest Talk coming up next.